Well, good morning to anybody who may be here, perchance. It's going to be another hot day here in Birmingham, and I'm very aggrieved in my heart and in my soul. I have been feeling a great grievance and a great sadness has come upon me, and there's a reason for all that, but I pray that the Lord remove it and my spirit be lifted, and that I bless this day which the Lord hath sent. So when I was about 19, I guess, we started, my friends and I, we lived in not a commune exactly, but a group of people, the way that you do, or the way that you did in those days. And the thing that joined us together mainly was smoking marijuana, which we did with great gusto day after day, and collecting wood and telling stories and enjoying the free love of the period at our peril, as we later discovered. And that's how it was back in those days, which I guess would have been the mid to late 1970s. And we lived in a house at one point in Oxford, and we had a great stereo system because it was our band's PA, which consisted of two Marshall PA amplifiers, both valve amplifiers, of 400 watts each, and they stacked one on top of the other. And then we had two Marshall PA stacks, one in each corner of the room, and they were so tall that they almost touched the ceiling. So Lord knows what our neighbours used to think of us. I don't recall any conflict. I think the neighbours on that side of the house were strangers, and in those days the stranger was more circumspect, I think, with their conduct because they were few. So it was. I mean, they were probably very nice people as well. They must have been to put up with us lot. But the fact that they were strangers at that time might not be irrelevant. I was fixing the fence yesterday morning, and it's not my fence or the fence that belongs to this side of the street, but it belongs to a sort of a ramshackle house in another road that backs on to my road, and the fence needed attention, and it's in terrible condition, and the financial burden of that fence would fall to the homeowner, but very often people just don't bother. And so I was trying to make it fit for purpose with an electric drill and some screws and not very much work. And the lady came from the house and asked me what I was doing. And she I don't know where she's from. I'm going to guess that she's a Muslim, perhaps Indian, and very nice and all the rest of it. And she was challenging, really, the condition of the fence, she claims, was due to the young children playing football in the area outside of my house, which very rarely happens because her attitude is well known. She claims that it's the footballs that are knocking the fence down when the thing is probably 40 years old and badly in need of replacement. I mean, she thanked me and all the rest of it, but she was testing the waters and pointing out another part of the fence that needs fixing and would require more effort on my part, and I told her I didn't have time, but I would do it eventually. So there's a different attitude among, the stranger, I think, as their numbers have increased so that they've actually become the majority. Then, they see that their rights should be upheld. The balance of power has certainly shifted. But the story I wanted to relate was my first hearing of the U-Roy song, or the Melodian song, but it's the U-Roy dub version of The Rivers of Babylon. It was a great favourite of mine, and so, perhaps we would listen to it regularly. I can't perfectly recall, but certainly it was one of the songs that I greatly admired. And I loved the bass line. We listened to a lot of reggae at that time, and getting into the way that the rhythms had been set down and the way that the bass moved so elegantly through the melody in many songs, particularly that one. I really liked the way that they'd done it. But the other thing that struck me was the power of the words. The words are taken from Psalm, I think it's, I've got it here, 137. And U-Roy quotes Psalm 137, and then he quotes Psalm 133. And then at another point he quotes Psalm 19. Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto Jah over I, is what, I'm not sure whether he says Jah, but he probably doesn't say the Lord. At one point he refers to the Lord as King Alpha, but he will have been a Rastafarian, I guess, and that's a whole nother topic. But I just felt there was power in the words that he was singing. I don't know why. He was singing about something other than falling in love, I guess. And I was attracted by it, but I didn't follow it up as I ought to have done until a period of about 40 years had passed. And then I discovered that he was singing from the Psalms. And I read Psalm 137, and I became a bit concerned with it, as you might do if you read the psalm to the end. And I discussed it, I remember, with the preacher, and he explained that the dashing of the heads, what is it now? Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. It wasn't implying that they would be followers of Christ that did such a thing. The Lord uses the wicked to achieve his ends. It could be interpreted as a warning, really. It's not a triumphant taunt. But I was shocked by it, and that gave me pause. But the psalm is beautiful, and a meaning was revealed to me this morning as I read it, because I'd been reading about a festival that is currently being, the tickets are on sale. I don't know quite when it's going to be held, and it's scheduled to take place at Sandringham. Sandringham being the summer palace of the royal family, a great estate in Norfolk, with the usual majestic buildings. And I believe it's where Prince Andrew is currently hiding away in a corner of the property. It'll be a huge place, miles and miles of private road and shooting and all the rest of it. I think it's open to the public from time to time. And they're holding a great music festival there in a few days' time, and the artists are not the sort of artists that I would listen to myself. I think Maria Carey was mentioned. I think she might be one of the headline acts. Eric Clapton, who I just have no time for. Once Cream ceased to exist. And a few other names that I recognise, but most of them I'd just seen in passing because they're kind of pop singers. And the cost of attendance, I can't remember whether it's even 5 days, perhaps just 3, but it's obviously, it's not going to be cheap. I did look it up, way out of my price range. No chairs are provided for the audience also, which is, it doesn't seem like a nice time just to stand in a field for days. But, that's apparently they can sell these tickets. And it made me think about the line of Psalm 137. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? And also, they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. To me, the current time doesn't seem to be a time for celebration of song. They're trying to, I guess the industry is trying to restart or whatever, or, there's a whole money train behind this stuff. And I'm sure the king will be well remunerated for allowing this spectacle to take place on his land. And his name comes up in some of the discussions. He's thanked even. Organising the people that are coming are sometimes described as idols because they're headline acts, the musicians, and there'll be a huge entourage and equipment and Lord knows what. And it grieves me to see it. And I was reminded of those words in Psalm 117. Of course, we're not, or I'm not, in a strange land geographically, but spiritually I feel to be in Babylon. And my heart would not be lifted up in song in the way that many people are celebrating now. I mean, these are all empty vessels. They're past idols anyway, those that are appearing on the stage, but they command a high fee and they get a lot of airtime, and so a lot of people know them. It seems inappropriate, particularly given the location and given the very negative effect that the king has had on our lands by remaining silent in the face of public wickedness and great oppression of our people, thus really revealing that he's not one of us. It grieves me to see that. But Roy and his reggae thing, they just had the power of those words. And that was the first time that I ever really became aware of the Word of God, but I didn't connect somehow. I was not diligent in reaching my conclusions. I just brushed it off. But I've always been an admirer of reggae culture and Rastafarian culture because of the references to the Holy Bible. and the musical skill and everything. But Rastafarianism is not a godly practice. But here I am, or would it be 40 years later or longer, nearly 60 years later rather, and still sit before the Bible and read those words, and the chalice is still burning if my lighter will behave. King Alpha, why not? God bless.